Welcome to Celestial Insights, a weekly podcast that brings the stars down to earth. I'm your host, astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks. My purpose is to provide practical, unique, and insightful guidance to help you navigate the energies of the week like a boss. Hello, this is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste, and on this episode, I will discuss the astrology for the week of March 16th, 2025. My transits class for Kepler College begins on April 1st. If you want to sign up and receive the lowest pricing possible, please do so by March 18th when early bird pricing will end. This class is for people who know the basics of astrology and how to read a natal chart and want to learn how to forecast the future. First, let's take a look back. I'm recording this on March 12th around 6 p.m., so I do not know the lunar eclipse story yet, but several things have happened that are of the nature of the lunar eclipse in Virgo. Events can come in up to 6 weeks in advance, but these are things that are coming in a couple of days before the lunar eclipse. Eclipses are full moons times 10 or 10,000, and it's a time where we have full exposure of certain things. And when your chart is activated, it could be you. And for Elon Musk, his Pluto, and Pluto is the planet of deep transformation, of death and rebirth. Pluto transits can take us to our knees and be a dark night of the soul. They can humble us and humiliate us, but ultimately are empowering, where we can get into deep power struggles and try to assert our will. And it's a South Node lunar eclipse, and the South Node is a drain, and it's in the sign of Virgo, which rules health, accountability, systems, workers, especially public workers. He has had several events that are of the plutonic nature occurring within the last couple of weeks. Right after the first quarter moon in Gemini, and Gemini rules transportation, one of his rockets for his company SpaceX blew up and caused a catastrophe in Florida. Several flights for commercial airliners had to be delayed or rerouted in Florida as well as the Caribbean. And debris was falling everywhere in the ocean. But it also had, I'm sure, a psychological effect on people who were in planes or on the ground and who saw this explosion in the air. And I am wondering if this is going to be one of the things that drives people in Florida to the polls, and there could be a potential change in the balance of power in Congress because of the Florida special elections for 2 Congress people. We shall see what happens there, but that was a very humbling event for Elon Musk. Tesla sales have been crashing worldwide, as well as the stock price is tumbling down. On Monday, right before the lunar eclipse, a group called the Dark Storm Team, which is a pro-Palestinian hacker group, shut down Twitter several times on that day. So Twitter had a cyber attack, and he's really becoming the most hated person in the country. So these are some events that symbolize the difficulties he's having in his personal life that are impacting his wealth and causing him to feel disempowered. And apparently he was whining to Donald Trump, who filmed a Tesla car commercial outside of the White House for Elon Musk to improve his sales. And it turned around. The stock started rising after the President of the United States did a car commercial for Tesla on the day Mercury was conjunct Venus retrograde in the sign of Aries. And it was a red car, a red sporty looking car. So that's the Aries energy. Mercury rules cars and Venus retrograde. The revenues have been going down because people are boycotting the car. And Donald Trump said that at one point even suggested that it was illegal to boycott Teslas. There is no law that you have to purchase a car from Tesla. So these are some personal things that have impacted Elon Musk of a plutonic nature. Now, for the larger society, we've had several things of the nature of the Virgo lunar eclipse. Virgo rules resources, the basics of resources, health, and systems are a few of the main topics. Oh, and workers. And so we've been seeing workers eliminated and fired since the administration took effect with the South Node in Virgo. In terms of health, there was a cruise ship where norovirus struck and 80 people got sick. I would never tell anyone it's okay to get on a cruise around this eclipse. And one of the key features of the eclipse is that the moon is opposite Saturn and Pisces. That's so literal. People are on the ocean. Pisces are suffering an illness, Saturn, that makes you feel horrible. And with Mars and Cancer, trying Saturn and Pisces, it's a recipe for norovirus on a cruise ship. So that's one of the health things we've seen. Also, bird flu is adapting, and now there are more cow herds that have been infected with bird flu. So this is concerning for the food supply and for farmers and farmland, which are Virgo topics. The measles is continuing to spread in the United States. Now there are cases in California. And butterflies are declining. There was catastrophic news released that butterfly populations had a sharp decline. So those are some of the stories we've been seeing coming to life as Mercury is slowing down to station retrograde, as well as the lunar eclipse is bringing full exposure to certain topics. Also, Elon Musk called Medicare and Social Security entitlements, which they are not. People invest in these every paycheck, and he's made it clear he wants to eliminate Medicare and Social Security, which is causing people, seniors, workers, so much stress and anxiety. People are really being kept up at night and having all kinds of mental stress. That's the Saturn and Pisces. The sun, which rules leaders, was conjunct Saturn at the lunar eclipse. So the leaders' decisions are causing this Saturnian impact because the moon is opposite. The moon rules the people, the sun rules the leaders. The people are suffering great mental distress because of the decisions made by this administration. In Pakistan, militants took over a train and kidnapped over 400 people, and some people were killed. This lasted for a day or so. It was the day that the sun was moving to a conjunct Saturn. So seeing people kidnapped and their power being taken away by these terrorists is very sun conjunct Saturn in Pisces, because the sun focuses us in on things and Saturn is extreme hardship and Pisces rules prisoners. The Birthdate Company makes amazing products, and I am a proud affiliate. I especially love the Birthdate book. It's a fully personalized, beautiful, and unique reading of your birth chart with over 70 pages of detailed horoscope analysis. It is such high quality. I absolutely love it. They also make amazing birth date candles You can get it for yourself or as a gift for someone else. So check out the store and use my coupon code Celeste10 for a 10% discount. Go to bit.ly/3PW3NFM. You can find that in the link in the show notes. Enjoy. The theme of this week is brighter days ahead, and there are three big things I want you to think about as we navigate this week. The first is that Aries season is from March 20th to April 19th. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and it is cardinal initiating fire. So after Pisces season, where it's the last sign, it's mutable, watery energy, and we feel like we're not sure exactly which way we're going. There will be some kind of crisis as the sun is at 29 degrees of Pisces. And then, the sun moves into Aries and there is a new start. Aries energy is inspired, it's pioneering, it's independent, competitive. Now, on the shadow side, conflict is more likely. Aries rules war. People may be more willing to fight. You'll just hear people talking louder. This cardinal fire energy gets us going, ready to start new beginnings. The world is getting a reboot because it's when the sun goes to 0 Aries, that's the start of the zodiac year. And there's this fresh new energy of life because the sun is exalted in the sign of Aries, where it is lifted up and it can do what it does with more ease and help. Now, Mars rules Aries, and Mars is currently in fall and out of bounds in the sign of Cancer. One of the shadows of Aries energy is impulsivity. And with the ruler of the sign in poor condition, just be mindful to watch yourself. And if you feel the need to do something impulsive, slow down, take a breath. Mercury and Venus are both retrograde. So our thought processes and our desires can come up impulsively. They're both in Aries, and we should really pause and not rush and do things because there is more possibility of making an error. Mercury rules errors, or causing ourselves an extra expense. Venus rules money, or damaging a relationship. Venus also rules relationships. So just keep that in mind. If you can move through the world more slowly, you're moving your body and getting some exercise as a way to dispel this new energy burst rather than just rushing and acting impulsively and causing yourself problems. When the sun enters the sign of Aries, it's the spring equinox where there is equal day and equal night in the northern hemisphere. And then we get more light than darkness. So that's why the episode is called Brighter Days Ahead, because yes, we're going to be having more sunlight, more energy, and more drive as we move through the spring and into the summer. The next thing I want to make you aware of is that we have a last quarter moon at 2 degrees of Capricorn. So the sun is in Aries and the moon is in Capricorn, both at 2 degrees. And what's interesting is the sun, which rules the leader, is exalted in the sign of Aries. Exaltation suggests being lifted up, having a special seat at the table. Now can also suggest arrogance. And the moon is in detriment in Capricorn, where it's far away from home as it can be. It's this rocky surface because Saturn rules the sign of Capricorn. And it's just not a comfortable place for the people to be in, because it suggests that they are in some way having some kind of hard time or struggle, or feeling emotionally depressed, cautious, unenthused. And with everything that's been going on in the United States, people, not just in the US, but around the world, are feeling a sense of concern about the future with all of these. There's a tariff war. The United States is waging a tariff war on our allies. Last quarter moons are the crisis of consciousness, where we psychologically integrate what has come before over the last 3 weeks. So think about what you learned about Pisces things during the new moon and Pisces cycle. There are also these larger cycles where we have a moon phase at the same degree over 27 months. Every 9 months, there's an activation. The new moon of this moon phase family, the sun and the moon, were both at 1 degree of Capricorn, December 23rd, 2022. Was there a story that started in your life around that time of either a Capricorn nature or the house Capricorn falls in your chart? At the first quarter moon, the moon slipped back into Sagittarius. So the sun was in Virgo, the moon was in Sagittarius, both at 29 degrees on September 22nd, 2023. So there's a possibility that, you started this new plan, and then, emotionally, you had this growth that you desired, Sagittarius expansion, but there was some kind of practical reality that came into your conscious attention with Virgo that you had to maybe make some kind of change. The full moon, where the sun and the moon were both at 1 degrees, the sun in Cancer, the moon in Capricorn, June 21st, 2024. So there may have been a full illumination of this energy. And the last quarter moon is on March 22nd. The sun in Aries, the moon in Capricorn. So think back over this cycle as well. And if your chart was activated, there may be a recognizable story. The sun at 2 degrees of Aries corresponds to the Two of Wands card. This is a card of future planning. What are the goals you want to bring into your life and manifest? Because there's all this new, fresh energy coming as we let go of old ways of being. This is a year, it's a 9-year where there's all of these endings, and we have all these planets going to 29 degrees of their respective signs, a degree of crisis and decay, and then changing into new signs. Neptune, Saturn, Jupiter, as well as Uranus, the outer planets, are changing signs. So there's going to be big shifts in the work for the collective, as well as generational changes. It also, the person on the traditional tarot card is looking over water. So there may be some overseas stories. The Sabian symbol is a cameo, shows the profile of a man that suggests the outline of his country. This made me think of Mount Rushmore, where there's 4 American presidents. I believe they're all presidents. I could be wrong. On Mount Rushmore, Donald Trump is insistent on wanting his face on Mount Rushmore. But makes you think about how the leader of a country is the people's representative. And from my perspective, it's not just my perspective, the world is losing more and more respect for the United States. I can't believe we elected this person who's basically, in my opinion, extremely erratic and making decisions that aren't rational for the country and causing us a stock market to crash, as well as a whole host of other issues. A reminder to not blindly follow government officials, but there are other leaders around the world that are rising into prominence as they stand up to these tariffs being issued by the American government and stood up for Vladimir Zelensky, who's fighting Russian aggression for the people of Ukraine. The moon is at 2 degrees of Capricorn. This is the Two of Pentacles card. It's the juggler. I like to call it the juggler. You see someone juggling balls on the front of the card, and it's about balancing priorities and time management. The Sabian symbol is the human soul in its eagerness for new experiences seeks embodiment. This can be about manifesting one's desires without concern for consequences, themes of reincarnation. The last thing I want to make you aware of is that Venus is Cazimi on March 22nd, the same day as the last quarter moon. So these are connected in some way. A Cazimi is when the sun meets a planet and starts a new cycle. So Venus retrograde will meet the sun at 6:07 p.m. Pacific time. This is called the inferior conjunction versus the superior conjunction. Venus in its retrograde cycle is as close to Earth as possible, intensifying the energy. Now, Venus is a benefic. It brings blessings. And it getting this rebirth energy can be really positive. This happens every 9.5 months when Venus meets the sun. And there's death and rebirth symbology. So as the planet is approaching the sun, it starts to be hidden under the sun's rays and blinded by the light. And it's aged, it's dying, and then it meets the sun, and the sun is considered the king, and it sits at the heart of the king and can ask for a favor, and then it goes on and starts a new cycle. Now, this is a more internal cycle for most people where you may be reevaluating your relationships, and there may be some kind of new start in a relationship with yourself, with your business. If you have anything at 2 Aries, this can be important for you. It's my midheaven, so I'm having some kind of, it's almost like a new moon when it's the inferior cycle, more like a full moon when it's superior cycle. So there's some kind of new rebirth. So I'm going to take some time to meditate and think about where I want to go next in my business. And you can think about how sunlight disinfects. Venus is moonwalking backwards and then smacks into the truth. We may see some things coming to light about leaders. Russia and Ukraine are negotiating about peace. Venus rules peace. This would be amazing if some conflict around the world came to an end. Now, we may see a Venusian person pass on. That's often someone prominent passes on when we have these Cazimi cycles or makes big news. Like at the last one, it was in Gemini, and there were 2 female candidates running for the president of Mexico, and one of them won. And so we saw a leader rise up with Venus Cazimi, but it was a superior, the full moon kind of cycle. So now it's more of a new moon. So we'll see what happens, and I will let you know. Oh, it's also an Aphrodite birth of Venus type moment with from the foam coming out of the sea. So we'll see if a woman who we haven't been seeing for a while rises back to prominence. But what you can do is take some time to meditate and think about your relationships and your self-esteem, your values, your money. And it's in the sign of Aries. So what actions are you taking that are heart-centered or inspired and dynamic and independent and pioneering. Is there some original idea that you'd like to put into action to meet your heart's desire and think about what your next steps are for it? Now, Mercury's retrograde, Venus is retrograde. You don't have to do it right away, but start thinking about what plans you want to put in action and take one step in front of the other. This can be beautiful energy. Be careful with fire, though, with Venus being in the sign of Aries. So if you light some candles, make sure to blow them out. If you are embarking on a new journey, experiencing a major life event, feeling stuck, trying to make a difficult decision, or just looking to make positive changes, astrology can provide life-changing insights. There are several ways to work with me. You can come for a 60 or 90-minute astrology consultation depending on your needs. Engage in longer-term cosmic success coaching where we work together on a 3-month basis to help you overcome blocks, improve your life satisfaction, build better relationships, accomplish your career goals, and understand yourself better using the tool of astrology. Or mystic mentoring if you're an aspiring astrologer and want help with chart analysis techniques. Go to astrologybyceleste.com to check out my offerings. If you have any questions, you can email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com. On Sunday, the word of the day is cracked. We start the week with the moon in Libra. So are you finding balance and harmony? Using your breath to calm down could be a great thing to do. We've just had a big lunar eclipse, so you may find yourself being a little exhausted or even having a eclipse hangover type feeling, even if you didn't have anything to drink. So keep that in mind. And how can you find win solutions? The moon and Mars are in a square with each other at 19 degrees. This is fighting energy, so people may be really ready to get into conflict, and you may find yourself being a mediator. On Monday, the word of the day is Phoenix. We have a Scorpio moon at 12:30 a.m. Pacific time. Scorpio is the sign of the Phoenix. It also is the eagle and the scorpion. It's the only sign that has these 3 archetypal energies. So sometimes things are burned down to the studs in order to be rebuilt, or after a hard time, the Phoenix rises. Scorpio energy is very investigative. So something may come up to your conscious attention about maybe even your shadows that you recognize you're ready to let go of from the lunar eclipse that maybe brought some full exposure of some area of your personality. So really notice what is coming up inside of yourself. The sun is conjunct the North Node in Pisces at 27 degrees. Our attention is going to be focused on Piscean themes in some way, which is spirituality. Now, Pisces people are people who are disempowered in some way, where they had limited ability to have influence over themselves or in a place they'd rather not be, like prisoners or refugees or people sick in hospitals or drug addicts or homeless people. And the North Node has a symbology around groups. So just pay attention. There may be like you read an investigative report about one of these topics in the newspaper. There's an amplification of this water energy, so there could be like bad storms. And Mercury in Aries is semi-square Uranus in Taurus. So this could be like breaking news. Aries is a fire sign, so there could be news of fire or a lot of protests. There have been protests all over the world about people upset with their governments at times. People in the U.S. are apoplectic about what Elon Musk is doing in our government systems. On Tuesday, the word of the day is confetti. There's a disseminating moon at 13 degrees of Scorpio at 3 a.m. Pacific time. Disseminating moons are times to share what you've known. So maybe something's exposed that people are really happy about with the confetti. Now, I wrote down ticker tape. So there may be some stock market news that is of interest. Hopefully it's not more plunging down. On Wednesday, the word of the day is waterfall. The moon is opposite Uranus. There's going to be something that is of the nature of Uranus, which is a surprise. It could be upheaval. It could be people dealing with a lot of water, because now we have all three water signs have planets and it's still winter. We've got Mars in Cancer, the moon in Scorpio, and Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node in Pisces. So there's water everywhere. Just notice your emotions. When the moon is in Scorpio, people may be expressing more emotions around depression or feeling overwhelmed. Hopefully, though, you are feeling empowered. The moon enters the sign of Sagittarius at 1:16 p.m. Pacific time. Sagittarius is mutable fire. So if you were down or for some reason, you may feel up. Now, the moon Uranus could be people running for freedom out of a waterfall, literally. And then when they get past the danger, the moon in Sagittarius could be like, we're free, we're happy, we are inspired. Or it could also be people breaking into a store and acting lawless. Sagittarius energy can be lawless. We'll see what happens. 1:16 p.m. Pacific time is when the Sagittarius moon begins. Great time to move your body. Be more optimistic. When the moon moves into Sagittarius, if you were down with the moon in Scorpio, because the moon moves emotions, you may feel like, you're happier, and something positive could happen that brings in more optimism. Jupiter rules the sign of Sagittarius. It's a sign of optimism, exploration. Maybe you see something you want to study and to learn more about a culture or a place outside of yourselves. Or maybe you're thinking about travel. The Sun and Neptune are conjunct in Pisces at 29 degrees. So there is going to be a spotlight on something Neptunian, which can be like a magician or someone who's deceptive, or some kind of dealings that were dishonest could be exposed. Now, this could also be some news about the Pope, because he's a very Sun in Pisces. At the last degree of 29 Pisces, maybe he decides to step down. On Thursday, the word of the day is inspiration. Aries season begins at 2:01 a.m. Aries is a fire sign. Hopefully, people are feeling inspired and dynamic, but they also can be riled up and ready for conflict. There is so much conflict around the world right now, and it's hard to hang on to the beautiful things for some people at this time, because Venus and Jupiter are both in signs of their detriment. Venus is in Aries and Jupiter is in Gemini. There can be a lot of information zipping around, and people are feeling just, there's too much going on, and having a hard time or feeling like, do I have even enough resources to survive? But the sun going into Aries, there could be something, because the sun has a benefic influence, especially in the sign of Aries, where you can feel, a little bit inspired. Now it's holding on to that Neptunian energy, so it's a little wet or emotional, but as Aries season gets going, I hope you feel the beauty of inspiration. On Friday, the word of the day is army. Venus in Aries retrograde is sextile Pluto in Aquarius, both at 3 degrees. I wouldn't be surprised if we start hearing about places that are bringing back the draft because America has decided to, under the new administration, take a step back from the world, be more isolationist and less involved with other countries. And so there may be some stepping up of their defense of themselves because Russian aggression, Ukraine is just thought to be the first country that Putin wants to overtake. And then Russia has gone and invaded so many countries. It's nothing secret. The Sagittarius moon squares the nodes in Neptune. I wrote down suit up for war with Canada, so hopefully that's not what is going to happen. Venus can rule your costumes, your uniforms, but we're already in this horrible trade war with Canada, our closest ally. It makes no sense. I guess they're not our closest ally anymore by the time Donald Trump gets through with Canada. It's just really sad, but there's hardship coming to both of our countries, and maybe more and more people are realizing at the grocery store seeing the prices start to inch up, and they're ready to gather an army to march on Washington. On Saturday, the word of the day is blessings. The Capricorn moon begins at 12:28 p.m. Pacific time. The moon doesn't like to be in Capricorn. It's the sign of its detriment. If you were feeling like you had a lot of fun on Friday night, you might feel like, oh, I got to get some chores done and do some planning of Sunday dinner. And when the moon goes into Capricorn, or you're thinking about or focused on elders, government, or big business. Now, there's this last quarter moon in Capricorn where the sun in Aries, the moon in Capricorn are both at 2 degrees at 4:29 a.m. Pacific time. If you feel like you want to take some action, just don't be impulsive. Now, I normally don't pay attention to this, but this day is really intense because we have the last quarter moon. It's in the sign of Capricorn. The nodes then station direct. The nodes do this wobbling thing, so they're often going backwards or direct, but the nodes are karmic and we're in eclipse season. And then we have Venus retrograde Cazimi at 2 Aries. So there may be some announcement of some kind of, I'm hoping it will be a peaceful resolution of some kind of war, but it could be like a figure. We could be looking at a specific beloved person who's in a battle in some way or is being exalted for something. This occurs at 6:07 p.m. Pacific time. There's an energy of death and rebirth. It's on a Saturday. So yeah, it'll just be interesting to see what goes on. I wrote the word of the day is blessings. So I hope it's positive and not something that's a negative. Yeah. I definitely hope it's blessings because that's on my midheavens. Oh, maybe I'll get maybe something positive will happen for my career. Yes, and I hope everyone gets some kind of Venus blessing. This is a great time to consider all your blessings, no matter how small. With Venus in Aries, the sign of its detriment, they can be small blessings, but hey, we'll take it. So that's it for this week's episode. Feel free to email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com with any astrology and action stories, or let me know how the daily themes are playing out for you. Take care, and I'll catch you next week. Thank you for listening to Celestial Insights. To learn more about my work, please visit my website, astrologybyceleste.com, where I offer personal readings, horary consultations, cosmic coaching, group events, and classes to help guide people to higher levels of fulfillment. You can also find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Astrology by Celeste. If you enjoyed Celestial Insights, please help others find the show. Follow, rate it 5 stars, or write a nice review. I would so appreciate it. I'm astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks, and I'll be back next week.